Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome back to another installment of Scott's Selections here for Friday, January 3rd. Before we get into today's play of the day, quick recap of what happened yesterday. We ended up picking up a play of the day winner with the Clippers minus 12.5, which was available at FanDuel at minus 110. They're up 27 after three quarters, then things got a bit dicey, but the Clippers were able to hold on and get themselves a 14-point victory, which means that we got our first winner of 2020, since we ended up giving out a look-ahead line on the Saints and Vikings game earlier this week. So it's nice to start out the new year with a win, but we'll look to keep it rolling with another NBA play here. And today we're going to be looking at a matchup between the Atlanta Hawks and the Boston Celtics. And we actually like the home team in this spot. We like the Celtics minus 10.5, which is available on DraftKings at minus 110. Now, before we get into the actual logic behind the play. A couple of injury announcements, which actually bode well for Atlanta, but I don't think it's really going to matter. Boston will be missing Kemba Walker as he's been dealing with flu-like symptoms. He will not be playing today, but Jaylen Brown is expected to play in this game. He was questionable earlier in the day, but he went through practice in a full shoot-around, so he should be able to go. Meanwhile, Atlanta will most likely have the return of Trae Young to the lineup, who missed the last two games due to an ankle injury. And Atlanta should also be getting the return of Jabari Parker, who missed the last three games due to an injury. Although both those players are good at offense, both of them play virtually no defense, and I think Atlanta should struggle defensively containing Boston, just as Boston has been a really solid offense so far this season. Very deep team. Jaylen Brown's emerged. Tatum's emerged as well. Gordon Hayward, when healthy, has been very good. I know that Walker being out is a bit of an issue, but I think Boston will actually improve defensively with the added playing time for Marcus Smart, who most likely will be inserted into the starting lineup. The main reasons, though, why I like the Celtics in this spot despite the absence of Kemba Walker is due to the fact that Atlanta has just been playing terrible basketball and has been awful on the road, while Boston is one of the best teams in the Eastern Conference, and it has also been one of the best teams at home throughout the entire course of the year. Boston is 23-8 overall, and they are 13-2 at home. They've been really solid. They've also been rolling lately, and they enter this game in very solid form as they have won 6 of their last 7 games. They've been cooking at the right time, and I think another just home game against a weaker Eastern Conference opponent should lead to another easy victory for the Celtics. Meanwhile, Atlanta was able to win their last game on the road against Orlando, yet that does not change the fact that before that game, Atlanta was on a 10-game losing streak, which means that in their last 11 games, Atlanta is 1-10. So even though they won their last game, this team still stinks, and Atlanta on the road is 4-15. I don't think that Trae Young returning will change much of that outcome based on the fact that Atlanta just can't guard anybody defensively. Atlanta's giving up 117.6 points per game, while Boston's giving up 103.6. Trae Young, not a good defender. Now, I know he's not going to have to guard Kemba Walker, so I got a bit lucky on that one. But at the end of the day, I just can picture Boston running whoever offense on Trae Young and Jabari Parker. They're most likely going to just run a bunch of pick and rolls, try to get the switch they want, and try to exploit Trae Young on the perimeter due to his smaller frame. I think Boston should win this game pretty easily. I think Atlanta, even though Trae Young is back, I think they will struggle offensively. I trust Stevens to come up with a good game plan to keep Trae Young in check. Plus, Boston, I mentioned how good their defense as a whole. On the perimeter, they're really solid, especially with Smart probably getting more minutes. Jaylen Brown's a very solid defender. Hayward's not really that great of a defender, but Tatum is pretty good. And overall, I just think Boston should be able to limit Trae Young, who might not be at 100%, but that remains to be seen. Parker is pretty good offensively, plays no defense, though. I think he'll also get exposed by either Tatum or whichever smaller guard or small forward he's going to have to guard. I think they'll do well against Parker, and at the end of the day, I know John Collins is a very solid athlete, and he's a pretty good big man. I still don't think he's a center. I think he's more of a power forward, and Fernando has struggled a bit so far in his rookie season. I think that overall, Boston should just be able to win this game about 15 points. Atlanta's offense, besides Trae Young and a bit of Collins, has been, I'd say, virtually non-existent so far this season, whereas Boston has been pretty much clicking from their bench to their start, just everything. Boston just a very solid and deep team, and I think at home, I think Atlanta will be overwhelmed by the environment, and I think the Celtics should win this game going away. Now, money has come in on Atlanta lately just because of the Kemba Walker news with regard to the injury, as Boston originally was at minus 11.5, was up to roughly 12 or 12.5 this morning. Then Kemba was announced out, and the line has dropped to 10.5. It might continue to drop, but I'm making the video now, and I think Boston should win this game pretty easily. So even though the line is continuing to drop, I still think that's a bit of an overreaction to Kemba not playing, as Boston still has the deeper and the better overall roster. So for me, play today on Friday, January 3rd, will be on the Boston Celtics minus 10.5, and that line is available on DraftKings at minus 110. Now looking at the rest of the betting card here, I'll stick with the NBA briefly. Wasn't really a big fan of many games here. On the card, what do I like here? I'm going to lean to Miami minus 1.5. I'm a bit concerned that Miami played a back-to-back as they ended up having to play yesterday against the Raptors. Tremendous defensive performance in that game. They were really good. Orlando's coming into this game off of a loss against Atlanta. Orlando is, well, they're playing normal Magic basketball, which is pretty underwhelming. And Miami has looked like one of the best teams in the Eastern Conference. Even though Miami had to play yesterday, I just think this team is too deep. I think Orlando should have some issues containing all of the weapons on Miami's bench. Duncan Robinson's a threat. You have Nunn who's been great. Herro's been great. I just think that Miami has too many weapons, and I think that you should see Miami continue to play well in this one. Orlando also is going to be without Jonathan Isaac, who will be out for roughly 2 months, and he has been their best defender on the entire roster, so I'm a bit concerned with how Orlando will adjust defensively with him out of the lineup. Plus, Aaron Gordon did participate in shoot-around this morning, but he's dealing with an Achilles injury, and he's currently a game-time decision, so he might not be able to go. I just think Miami's the better overall team. The spread is short, so it's a bit concerning, but I'll take the bait there. I'll lean to Miami on that one. Other than that, though, not really interested in much else on the NBA card. Switching gears to the to college basketball, looking at the card, what do I like here? I'm going to actually lean to the Rutgers and Nebraska over here. In this game, I wrote an article about it for Winners Whiners. If you want to, you can check out that article I wrote. When I wrote the article, though, Rutgers was at -1. They're currently up to -6. I'm not going to back a Big Ten team on the road. That has been just an absolute money burner so far this season. Meanwhile, the over has received some money as it's gone from 141.5 to roughly 144. I think it makes sense. Nebraska and Rutgers play decently fast, pace tempos, and I think you should see both teams potentially get into the 70s. I think Rutgers, even though they have played good defense, most of their good defense has come at home, and on the road they have struggled a bit defensively. I think this game should be closer to the high 140s, low 150s. So for me, I'll lean to Rutgers and Nebraska on the over in that one. Other than that, the main matchup to talk about is the only ranked team that's playing tonight between Ohio State as they take on Wisconsin at home. Money's coming on Wisconsin. Ohio State was opened at -10, down to -7. I graduated from Wisconsin. This basketball team stinks. I'm not going to back Wisconsin pretty much ever this season. If the spot is good, I will. But this team just isn't good. I mean, I've seen them play. I saw most of the players play live last year. This team, I know they beat Tennessee on the road by 20 last week, but Tennessee was without their starting point guard, Turner, who's going to be out for the rest of the year, and Tennessee was all out of sorts offensively as a result. Ohio State, number 5 team in the country for a reason. That stadium's going to be rocking on Friday night, and for me, I think Ohio State should take care of business there, so lean to Ohio State -7. I think the market overcorrected a bit much. And I think that you should see Ohio State get the job done. So lean to Ohio State on that one. But the play of the day, once again, will be on the Boston Celtics -10.5, which is available on DraftKings at -110. Other than that, that's going to do it for the installment of Scott's Selections here for Friday, January 3rd. And good luck to all of you and your respective bets today. Bye, everyone.